town council, but to the many silent leaders we have diligently working every day in our various departments in West Warwick. I also realize my prayer has evolved into more inspirational anecdotes, but I think now more than ever, as we hopefully get back to in-person meetings, maybe later this year, hopefully, it will be good. My belt may not agree with that, but it will be good to set the proper tone for our meetings. I know there's oftentimes lots of negativity in those meetings, so I think setting a tone with some positivity is definitely a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Jay, will you lead us in prayer? Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jay. Roll call, Sarah.
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Council Vice President Williamson,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
I'm on record. All right, citation 2021-01 honoring Juana Felicia.
Unfortunately, I don't have the citation with me to read. I think.
Would you like me to read it for you?
That'd be great.
Sure. All right, Town of West Warwick, Rhode Island citation. Whereas Juana Felicia, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, is an employee of the United States Postal Service, and whereas on March 3rd, 2021, Juana recognized an emergency situation and rendered aid, and whereas if it had not been for the life-saving response of Juana and the responding emergency medical crews, a precious life may have been lost, and now therefore it be resolved that the West Warwick Town Council would like to commend and recognize Juana Felicia for her exemplary conduct and outstanding performance in an emergency situation, and calls on every citizen of West Warwick to recognize Juana's heroic effort. Be it further resolved that this proclamation will be made a permanent part of the records of the Town Council of the Town of West Warwick, given under the seal of the Town Council of the Town of West Warwick, Rhode Island, this 11th day of May, 2021.
Move the resolution.
That's actually not even a resolution. It's actually a
It's a
citation.
citation.
But I thought she said it was a resolution. Okay.
And I want to thank Joanna for what she has done. And I know we received an email earlier this month. And Sarah, thank you for taking care of that. And I think we're going to, I'm not sure if anybody here from the post office tonight.
I spoke to the postmaster yesterday, and I told him upon my return, I'll set up a meeting with them so he can arrange their schedule to get together. And whoever is able to join me one morning will go present it to her in person in front of her colleagues.
Have we had, in the past year, is this the first citation, Mark?
The first
No,
in my memory, because of, since we haven't been meeting in public.
So we've had individuals ask for some citations, and we have given them out over the past year. This is just the first one that's actually been on the agenda.
I think it might be cool, like whenever we get back to meetings, maybe we could have some of these people come in. We could kind of do something in person, hopefully soon. Is there a timetable for that when we're going to get back to like real stuff at the end of the summer? Is that, I guess this will come on the next item, Mark, when you talk about because I can save.
We'll talk about that when it's on the agenda.
I'll save it for that item. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Sarah.
If I had Jay moving that motion, but I don't think there was ever a second.
Yeah, it was actually just a citation.
Sorry.
So there was no movement. Thank you.
Oh, you guys don't move on them. Okay.
We're on consent agenda.
Okay, approval of the minutes of the April 20th, 2021 regular town council meeting.
Move approval of the minutes.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi?
Yes.
Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Okay, business licenses. Request from Tina St. Angelo for renewal of kennel license for premises located at 12 Pulaski Street. Do you guys
You're
want to
doing
move all of these together?
Yeah, we're gonna move all together.
Okay, then I'll keep reading. Request from Gendron's Jewelers for renewal of secondhand dealer's license. Request from Liberty Mobility LLC for renewal of secondhand dealer's license. Request from Estate Services for renewal of secondhand dealer's license. And request from Church of Christ the King for a raffle permit.
Move the business licenses.
I second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Any public discussion on the licenses? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes,
and I vote yes. I'm still trying to get used to vote only 4 of us.
I know.
Okay, presentation of the fiscal year 2020 audit by Clifton Larson and Allen.
Kristen?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Nosik. I am the engagement partner for the audit of the town. On the call, as well as Matt Bonin, who was the manager. To clear up perhaps some confusion as to names, we were, when you hired us, Bloom Shapiro. Bloom Shapiro was acquired by Clifton Larson Allen effective January 1 of 2021. So we now fly under that flag, if you will, moving forward. Our office locations have not changed. Our Cranston office has not changed. The team servicing the client has not changed as well. So we're hoping and we believe that from the perspective of our interactions with our clients, in particular in Rhode Island, it's going to be quite seamless. So nonetheless, though, we are from Clifton Larson Allen now. I can go through the report highlights pretty quickly. What I'll go through are basically the terms of the engagement that you hired us for, the reporting results relative to that engagement, some really, really brief financial highlights, and then I just want to bring your attention to some required communications that we did provide you upon issuance of the financial statements back in January. So relative to terms of the engagement, we're actually performing the audit here in the town of West Warwick under 3 sets of standards, if you will. Primarily, we're reporting I should say, performing audit under generally accepted auditing standards. We're also performing audit work under generally accepted governmental auditing standards. And then finally, under uniform guidance, which formerly was known as the Federal Single Audit Act. Under general accepted auditing principles is relevant to the accounting principles that are attributed to the financial statements that we report on. So in all of those cases, under general accepted auditing standards, that's our primary audit opinion that we issue on the financial statements, page 1, 2, and 3 of the bound document. The governmental auditing standards report is contained in as a standalone report, or I should say a report included in the federal single audit report. And then the uniform guidance report clearly is in the federal single audit report as well. So the reporting results, if you will, under general accepted auditing standards, and then therefore GAAP, because that's the accounting methodology behind the financial statements, we've issued an unmodified or clean audit opinion on the financial statements of the town as of June 30, 2020, which basically states that in our opinion, the financial statements fairly represent the financial position and results of operations of the town for the fiscal year. It's opinion unit based, meaning it's a separate opinion for the general fund, for wastewater fund and all your major funds, and then everything else is conglomerated into what's deemed non-major funds, but there are multiple opinions that are wrapped inside of that report. Under governmental auditing standards, what we'd be required to report to you are if during the performance of our work we identified any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies relevant to financial reporting. So basically the accounting structure, the accounting systems in the town and how they roll up to your financial reporting, as well as we're required to gain an understanding of any compliance requirements that are attributable to the town, that a violation thereof of one of the compliance requirements would be deemed material to the financial statements. And we report on both of those relevant areas to you, again, in that governmental auditing GAO report, often referred to as Yellow Book report. So in there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that were uncovered relative to our work, and therefore nothing was reported in relation to that. The report simply states that no material weaknesses were found. So that's relevant to the internal control over financial reporting, and then over compliance. There were no compliance violations that were detected during the performance of our procedures. And then finally, under uniform guidance or federal single audit, that is very similar to that Yellow Book, to the governmental auditing standards, where it's a report on internal controls as to whether there are any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And then there's also an opinion, in this case, on compliance with the compliance requirements. But all of that is now just attributable to major federal programs that are selected for testing through the federal single audit criteria. In fiscal 20, there was only one federal program that was selected for testing, which was the Title I grants to local education agencies. Total funding, total expenditures in that grant for the year were $1,207,898. So we tested that program. There's a series of compliance requirements, 14 in full, that the federal government issues that says here's what the compliance requirements that the grantee has to follow. So we test for those compliance requirements, compliance thereof, and then we also have to test the internal controls relevant to ensuring that those compliance requirements are met. And again, there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in relation to internal controls over those compliance requirements, and there were no violations of compliance relative to our testing of them, and therefore we issued, again, an unmodified or clean opinion on the compliance for the fiscal year. So that would wrap up the scope and the reporting results, if you will. So in all cases, very clean reporting on all three levels for fiscal 20. Just some really high level financial highlights, and I focus primarily here on the general fund. So that's government, your government fund basis. But in the general fund, total fund balance at June 30, 2020 was $4,215,809. Of that unassigned fund balance, the portion that was unassigned was $3,494,374, which represents about 8.6% of total budgetary expenditures and transfers out. Those are excluding education expenditures. And the increase overall year to year was a little over $2 million. So fund balance did increase from fiscal 19 to fiscal 20 by $2,007,346. From a budgetary perspective, in the general fund, actual revenues that you brought in were less than budgetary projections by about $418,000, almost $419,000. That was solely due to state funding related to education. I'm sure, everybody was well aware of what the state was doing due to the pandemic and funding that they were providing to all the cities and towns in Rhode Island. So that took a little bit of a hit. Actually, that hit was about $900,000 relative to that state funding for education. The overall shortfall was only $418,000. So you did make it up in other areas. And then actual expenditures came in less than budgetary estimates for the fiscal year. So you manage that budget in accordance with your budgetary estimates quite tightly, and we're able to come in, I think in all functional categories, we're under appropriations with the exception of public safety. Another area that I tend to like to touch on is just long-term obligations, long-term debt, relevant to your governmental activities. Also, we can talk a little bit about business type activities too, but relevant to the governmental activities, total long-term obligations. So this is bonds, notes, pension liability, OPEB liability, compensated absences, everything as of June 30, 2020 was 281,443,643. Of that, the biggest portion clearly is the pension liability, which as of June 30, 2020 for your governmental activities was 178,143,586. That overall total pension liability is up above 180 million when you allocate in the part that is allocated to wastewater activities. The plan stands at a funded status of 24.29% as of June 30, 2020. So when you look at the overall proportion of funding, if you in RSI, which is back behind the notes to the financial statements, you'll see a sequence of I think it's probably carrying about 13 years now of funding status relative to the plan. And you can see where you are and where you're, if it's growing, if it's depleting, whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, in the fiscal year 2020, the measurement of the assets is as of June 30, 2020, which, while not a completely depressed market, it was still recovering from the pandemic at that point in time. So, you're going to take a hit relative to the increase of that liability. The overall increase for governmental activities was about $7.7 million for the fiscal year. I'm sorry, $10.1 million for the pension itself. Overall debt went up 7.7. And then in the business type activities, long-term obligations totaled $27.5 million for the year. That actually represents a decrease from the prior year of about 1.8 million, which was basically due to the scheduled repayments on outstanding debt. So again, clearly that was 40,000 feet, maybe higher. I don't want to, get into real granular activity here in this environment. I'll be happy to answer any questions relative to the financial statements either this evening, or if you'd like us to come back at a time, as I think someone stated earlier, when maybe we can all see each other face to face, we'd be more than happy to do that. The only other thing that I wanted to touch on, and I won't go through it topically, but we did, as I stated, there is a letter that accompanies the financial statements when it comes to council that are required communications that are established by the AICPA. And there's certain topics that we have to disclose or communicate to you relevant to this. It's not stuff that we're plucking out of the air and decide we want to tell you something about a certain topic. The letter itself, the point of it is the venue in which we would communicate to you if management was expressing any bias relative to the financial statements, meaning were they trying to make things look better than they actually are, or trying to make things look worse than they actually are. And in all cases, under all these topical areas, there was nothing that was uncovered or anything that we felt relevant to the information that we were getting from management, other than that it was true and honest information that clearly and accurately reflected the financial position and results of operations of the town. So that's about all I'm going to cover tonight. Again, I'm more than happy to take any questions right now if you have them. And if not, you can get to us through the finance department or call us directly at the office.
Any questions for Ronald or Matt or Kristen?
No, I appreciate the point you made about the pension assets being at a point in time, and they have recovered somewhat since June 30th, 2020, that's for sure. So
yeah, yep.
Any questions?
I don't have any, Dave.
And like Kristen said earlier today, if anybody wants a hard copy of the audit, she can provide it to you. Kristen, I was actually there today. I went to grab it and I got distracted.
That's okay. I'm there whenever you stop by.
And you as a firm, Ron and Matt, are confident that you will remain? I mean, there won't be changes as far as the faces. That's one of the things I asked Kristen when I spoke with her earlier today. And she did say it was the same team by and large. Maybe some different rules from as far as hierarchy or different approaches, but basically the same team.
Yeah, I think you phrased that well. There will be some nuanceable differences in our audit approach that should remain seamless or actually, nothing that the town is going to see relevant to what we're doing, other than maybe, geez, they're asking for a little more support. They're testing more transactions or something like that. So the team is not changing, at least at the leadership level. There's always ebb and flow at the staff level, but yeah, we're already baked into the schedule, so we're good to go.
Good. Thank you.
Yep.
No further questions. Thank you for your attendance tonight, Ron and Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
All right, consideration of using govdeals.com to dispose of surplus town property.
Is this a resolution?
Not a resolution, just a request for guidance to alter the way we do things.
All right, Mark, I'll let you bring this to the forefront.
Certainly. So basically, I'm respectfully requesting consideration to use an online source called GovDeals to better dispose of our town surplus. We've been talking about this for a couple of years now. We believe that the way we have been doing it has turned a bit archaic. We've essentially accumulated our surplus, stacked it up typically behind the highway garage, and then once a year advertise locally and do the sealed bids and dispose of it. So it's really local advertising, and we're accumulating the property over long term, which not that it wears and tear on the back lot, but it does deteriorate while it's sitting there for an extended period. So we've been talking about GovDeals. That's an online source that's currently being used by many state agencies, as well as the municipalities of Providence, Smithfield, Newport, Westerly, Coventry, North Kingston, and a few others. Essentially, they are the organization that handles the online seller of the surplus. So we would contact them, take pictures, do an appraisal. We set the floor pricing, as well as the increments of the bids, and they put it out there, and their advertising handles it on a national, if not international level. I believe they have 700,000 people as of when I last talked to them that routinely bid on items. They handle the financial transaction, and then once the property is picked up from us, they either send us a check or wire us the money, however we send that up. So I believe it's a more efficient way of doing it, because we can do it one item at a time as we have property. So we don't have things hanging around deteriorating. It's much more transparent. We can do monthly or quarterly or annual reporting on it, and we will have a much more far reach for advertising and probably maximize our returns significantly.
So actually, when you're looking at the website, you can subcategorize, you can have a starting bid, a minimum bid. And you said they do all this, or who sets the pricing?
We tell them what we want as far as the minimum based on our appraisal. They'll help us with that if we like, or we can do it on our own. We have our own portal set up, and then we just set what increments we want people to bid at and how long we want it to be open for.
And if you look, they got a little bit of everything.
Mark,
I think.
who will be?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jason.
Who will be handling this? Like I usually ask who the point person is.
Yep. So Terry Canoia has been the point on all surplus things in the past few years. So he would be our primary manager of manipulating that account and working with the vendor through his hierarchy.
I think it's
He would be the point person.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a win-win all the way.
I would agree. I mean, I think that Mark, I think you used the word archaic. I believe that's true. It's a major, consumes a whole lot of time and energy. And quite honestly, there are times where people sometimes wonder who and how someone wound up with a piece of equipment or that, and this takes it out of our hands and puts it somewhere else. I think it's a great idea. We won't have things accumulating in the yard. It makes perfect sense, I think. And I assume it's not a commitment that we have to make I mean, if for some reason it's not working out, I'm sure there's some method that we can get out of it. If we're
I didn't highlight it, but there is no cost to us for doing it.
Right.
The pricing of it, the bidder takes on the cost, a 7.5% typically markup that Gov Deals makes. So it doesn't cost us any money. Like I said, it gets things out of our yard. We're not storing cars for months or year at a time to get rid of it. So I think it's good. And obviously we can, if we have something that we want to do the old way, we can. There's nothing that binds us to this. There's no contract. It's just a service agreement that we'll all play by the rules.
So
I can't imagine there'd be anything that we would, that would seem, getting it out of our hands, I think is a great idea.
So right now, everything goes through Kristen, doesn't it?
I believe Terry still sets it all up, but the funding, when it comes out, the sealed bids come in through finance, and the checks obviously get deposited there. So the finance will still happen the same. It'll be set up on an account to either receive the check or wire transfer. So we'll have checks and balances between the finance department and the coordinator of the service.
And just out of curiosity, let's just say Don feels that, Don, I'm just using you because you sometimes have equipment back there, but we'll use like, Don feels the backhoe is not good or not any further useful to the town. Who determines, ultimately, if they just decide, who determines whether or not it's auctionable or not? Would that be the
I know
department
for
head?
police cars, that would have been me. So, and
department head.
occurring with Terry.
So each department will have, the department head will determine that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I think that the ordinance, the code of ordinances states that the finance director is in charge of getting rid of anything that's not used. First, it has to be evaluated if it can go to a different department within the town. Then it goes to Kristen to get approved to be disposed of or sold before it can. Could you remember the term, Kristen, that was?
I don't remember the exact term, but
yeah, it's in the code of ordinances that
yeah.
that's where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, we read it.
We'll set up an internal protocol where a department head will submit what they want to sell to both the town manager's office and the finance director before we do anything like that. So I anticipate having a decent system of checks and balances there.
Absolutely. And at the last meeting, I had approved to go out to advertise for a compressor. We just got an air compressor. And so I'm holding off because if I advertise in the Providence Journal and Kent County Times, I'm not going to reach what this app can reach. So, we're going to get a much better audience for it. So,
Actually, looking on their website, they definitely look like they get more than what we did. And I know I've actually sat in on one of the bid openings the last time around. And, I was actually shocked at some of the prices people were paying or not paying per se. And I'm looking online, and you're right, Chief. I'm looking at compressors themselves, and they're getting upwards of that, what you thought it would be. And, same thing with backhoes, not running, they're getting, $5, $6, $7,000 where we got, $750 or $550. So I agree. This is actually going to be a good fit for the town.
And if we can leverage their expertise in setting what that, I assume, Mark, they will help us with that if need be, what a price should be.
Yes, they have a regional representative that will come help us if we're not successful taking quality marketing pictures, he'll actually come and do that for us, but and help us with appraisals as well if we need.
Kristen, do you have any concerns from a finance standpoint?
No, I read over the paperwork in it, and it seems like it's a pretty good, definitely a better process than what we go through now.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, Don.
Yeah, the process will still remain the same. You as a board will have to approve the disposal of surplus equipment, just as you did with the two that I went through here. And I've done this with 3 other communities. It's a fantastic system. And I've had bidders as far as New Mexico and Tennessee win bids and come up and pick the equipment up. And I think of the Hummer that we put on last year. I think we got $4 or $5 grand for it. Dave, you might remember the exact price. 37, so $4 grand.
And that individual sold it for $6,500.
Yeah, we probably would have got $6,000 or $7,000 for that one particular piece.
Yeah, actually, the Hummer went to a business in Phoenix. They parked it out there, and somebody came and offered him almost double. So he didn't even fix it. He ended up selling it.
So this is there a resolution that's needed, or is it just a business practice that we're moving forward with? Do we have to look at what ordinances are out there, especially how we dispose of property now and make changes? I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't delay. I would start using them, to be honest with you.
My original discussions, what was reported back to me, that there weren't any changes, that it was just recommended that we consult the council and receive the appropriate guidance to try it out.
So what I'll do here is I'll just take a quick roll call vote, just for guidance in your opinion on it, then, if that would work. That way there you got clarification from every council member. Councilman Licciardi?
Yes, I think it's a good way to do business.
Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And I apologize because my dog is snoring. That's not me, that's the dog.
Okay, request from the tax collector to award bid for the printing of the annual tax bills to D3 Logic Inc. in the amount of $17,292.
Need somebody to move the resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion?
I was a little confused actually by the attachment and the RFP that went out. And
can I explain to you how it all transpired?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we used to use ABS printing for our supplies and envelopes for the printing of the bills, and we also used them for the mailing services. Well, they went out of business, so I started getting quotes from different other vendors from different municipalities that they use, and the estimates were coming in over $5,000. So the reason for that was because they were totaling the supplies and the postage together. So when we all spoke, Kristen and I and Sal and Christine in the sewer department, the town charter does state it needs to go out to bid if it's over $5,000. So that's what we did. And I'm glad that we did that because we will be saving the town money and it will be more efficient to have them outsourced. And what is is it something that you don't understand on the bid comparison?
Well, as I was looking at them, I was actually kind of surprised with, the vision. The first one was 17,569, but with estimated.
That's the
Post-
printing cost. That's the
Yes,
that's the cost and that's supplies in the envelope. And then you have a postage cost.
correct.
And then the total cost is the 29,547.
I guess I'm just surprised there's such a difference. You look at quality data, which is the next one, and it's
Yep. I know.
Um,
I know. It's crazy. The postage cost for quality was a few cents higher. It was like 42 cents per piece. Where D3 Logic came in at the 0.398 piece under 3 ounces. And then for the paper and supplies, it's 0.198 per piece.
and tell me about Pac West. It says with
They did not. Pac West, that's too. There's no way they're gonna. That's too low. That cost.
well, I would agree. I mean,
Yeah.
so is that just that's I guess what when I look at this and 3D D3 Logic is not presented in the same format. I don't know how many pieces we typically have. They did
Well,
it as a per piece.
If you see underneath,
Yes, I do. Yep.
yeah, it's going to be close to 27,000, and if it's less, it's going to be less. But we had to give them a number, and we went by last year's numbers with Sal and myself.
So, and can you tell me what it was with our previous printer?
Yes, we paid last year total cost for our printing of the bills. This includes sewer as well. It was $19,854.10. That doesn't include overtime, and that doesn't include all of us working it for 5 to 7 days. We stop everything and we just concentrate on printing the bills and folding them and stuffing them and scanning them. I mean, we have to go through each page for multiple pages because some have multiples, and we have to separate the mortgage companies from the regular taxpayers, and motor vehicles are different, tangible is different. And then Bev needs to come down here and utilize everything as well.
So we're confident, even though that $17,000 price is good and solid and okay.
Yes, I believe it is. Sal, if you have anything to say, or Kristen?
Yeah, no, the two that were close were Quality and D3.
Yeah, D3.
D3 over there. I dealt with D3 for quite a while when I was in Cranston. They do an excellent job. The gentleman that runs everything down over there really knows his stuff. So I'm confident that they're going to do an excellent job for us. The Quality Data, they're only in one town, I believe, in Rhode Island. Well, they were with Westerly. I don't know if they've migrated to anyone else since then.
They are trying to come to Rhode Island. They have a lot of Connecticut municipalities.
But, I felt a little more assured with the D3. And then that lowball one, they were from California. So everything there was going to be email or by phone. And I wasn't too, I didn't like that one. I didn't agree with what we wanted to accomplish.
Okay. As I said, as long as we vetted it all, it looks like, they do D3 does come through as the least expensive, but And there's some comfort in the postage costs are close across all of them. Except one didn't, or a couple of them didn't actually put them in. As long as you're comfortable, and it's
Yeah.
never a bad thing to have it be a local company, so.
Yeah, it wasn't just us two. I mean, we sat down with Christine and Kristen
Okay,
and discussed, everyone looked at the spreadsheet that Rose had built up there that she passed along, so.
so
I've also-
Rose, you're
I've also worked
saying,
with D3 before.
okay,
Yeah.
so you're
for
saying
any
that it's gonna
Greenwich.
save us, quite a bit as far as personnel costs, overtime, things like that as well, and that's not savings that's reflected here, so, okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions for Rose or Sal? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
Thank you.
All right, wording to be used on the May 20th, 2021 ballot for the fiscal year 2022 all-day referendum. Would you like me to read the wording for anybody?
I'm just trying to. Does anybody have any questions about that wording? Shall the
Is that-
annual,
is that consistent with the way it's been in the past, Sarah? I don't really remember what it's been like.
Yes, both wordings were taken right from a prior ballot, so
Okay,
with new figures, of course, from Kristen.
any questions on that?
so is
Hearing
it,
none.
so remind me, so is it a yes or a no, or is it approve or reject?
That's a good question. I believe that it's a
The way
yes
it's
or a
worded.
no.
You would think so, the way it's worded, but I'm
The
not
way
sure.
it's worded,
I would go yes or no.
yeah.
Any other questions on that one? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
Okay. Next up is the wording to be used on the May 20th, 21 ballot for the road bond approval.
And again, this is approval of the question will authorize the town of West Warwick to finance the design, construction, repair, rehabilitation, and improvement of the streets and sidewalks in the town, including but not limited to paving, drainage, traffic control devices, safety improvements, and landscaping by the issuance of bonds and the notes in an amount not to exceed $7 million and 0 cents.
Just to clarify, if this passes, then it obviously has no effect on this current year's fiscal budget, but it would affect next year's fiscal budget. Is that correct?
Well, it would actually, we'd have to go out to bond, and depending on how long that takes, it would probably be done in that year's time. Karen Grandy still our bond counsel?
Yes, and the plan was always for the first debt service payment to hit in fiscal year 23 when our partial debt service was falling off.
Good. Just because I know that I want to get something out there, and I just want to, because I know people are I want people to know that it won't affect as far as, because there's no tax increase in this year's current budget. So
Right. Yeah. No, it has no effect on this year's budget.
And Kristen, just to clarify, I know we're looking for some debt to fall off. And do you remember exactly how much that debt was that was falling off, and roughly what the new bond payment would be?
It's the QZAB is retiring finally. in November, so which is fiscal year 22. It's approximately 230,000. I would have to look to see if some of the other payments might be reducing a little bit. I don't have the calculations of what the payments were on the, I thought they were a little bit more than the 230, maybe like
Yeah.
300,000, 325 maybe,
Yeah.
depending on how long it went out.
So that's something that, you know, as Councilman Messier, if you're out there explaining it, you know, that obviously other bond debt or other town debt is going to be falling off, and we're looking to somewhat almost balance it going forward, but it just brings it out. So ultimately, you know, depending on how you work the budgets over the next few years, and like Kristen said, you know, you're talking maybe $70,000 difference, maybe $100,000 difference. Until we get that, maybe we can get Kristen to get us that information in the next couple of days. You know, you're talking $100,000 difference in a budget versus, you know, the actual 300. And this is to do $7 million in road, sidewalks, and infrastructure.
Which is, I mean, I can't think of anybody in the town that would disagree with that. The roads need some work and the sidewalks need some work. I think it's definitely needed. If you, Kristen, if you could get us something in the next, you know, in the next week, that way I'd like to get something out there with all the facts and numbers, and that way people can kind of understand it. Because I think sometimes if they just see the lump number of what we're trying to get approved, it's better to put it into context.
The payment will be an estimate because obviously we don't know what interest rate
Yeah.
we're going to get, but I'll do some estimates.
Yeah, but of course, yeah, it'll be an estimate, but at least, you know, the fact that the other ones are going to be falling off, I think it's kind of at least partially offsets some of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
How many years was the QZAB on there?
Well, it goes back to the Malcolm days.
Yeah, I remember QZAB from when I first came on the council.
Yeah, it's been there. I don't know if that was a 20-year or a 15-year. I'd have to get out the debt book, but it's definitely been there for a while.
I just remember seeing QZAB on like every budget, and it's finally going to be gone.
I feel like it was at least 15 or 20-year obligation. So.
All right.
Sarah, just on the resolution, on the wording, $7 million, it should be an S instead of a D, that last sentence in the paren.
Yes, I see it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. No other questions? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
And I assume that is an approve or reject as opposed to a yes or no.
Yes. Correct.
Correct. It's an approve or deny.
Something like that.
I'll find out what you guys have done in the past and make sure it mimics that.
Or that it makes sense if what we've done in the past doesn't. So, yes.
Okay. All right, and approval of improvements to the police and fire emergency communications infrastructure on the Factory Street Communications Tower in the amount of $29,311 to be reimbursed by AT&T.
I need somebody to move the resolution.
Or the resolution.
Second.
Moving seconded. Chief Ferone.
Hey, I think it's a discussion action, okay?
It is. There is no resolution attached. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's a discussion action. So Friday morning, I got a call or an email from Tactical Communications saying that they needed, in order to get the equipment and everything moving, a purchase order. And that was my first indication that we were being asked to pay Tactical. I guess I should back up one step before that. It said AT&T agreed when they were going to increase the height of the tower, As part of the lease agreement, they were required to move emergency communications antennas to the top of that tower. Now, they've since decided not to do that, but they did agree to continue to upgrade our infrastructure. So they asked us if we wanted their company to do it or if we wanted our company to do it. So we obviously wanted our company to do it, so because we have a relationship with them. If they did it and had a problem going forward, it would be difficult to get a hold of them. So we wanted our company to do that. So as a result, Friday morning, he sent the email. He needed a PO to start to move forward. The dollar amount was too much, so we got this on the agenda. Friday afternoon, I was made aware that there was a failure in one of the intermediary companies, that they should have already given us the money, and we should get the money before we have to pay our subcontractor. So what I would ask of you is, just permission to go ahead with the, the PO under the understanding that it is not getting paid until we get the money first. And I do have written a signed agreement from AT&T saying that they are going to pay us.
Any questions for the chief on that? Any concerns with them moving forward?
I don't have any
No.
concerns.
I'm sure the chief will make sure that we have the cash in hand before we actually do it. Yeah.
I heard he has a couple of tough guys that can go do a shakedown.
Well, there you go.
Just turn on the hose, chief, right? Yeah.
Okay,
All right, chief, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, upcoming appointment, Sewer Use Board of Review, one alternate member, vacancy with a term to expire October 2021, and two vacancies with a term to expire October 2023. Pension Committee, two vacancies with term to expire November 18th, 2022 and November 18th, 2021. Recreation Committee, one vacancy. Tree Warden vacancy. Planning Board, two positions with a term to expire July 2021, and Zoning Board of Review, two openings with a term to expire July 2021.
Sarah, do you know if any of those, so the planning board and the zoning board, are people looking to be reappointed to those even though those openings are coming up?
Yes, I believe that the spots are filled. However, their terms are coming up. It's the way that you guys have done this in the past on here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Mr. Cardoza has also showed interest that he'd like to be reappointed. So, and I know others are going to be showing interest. So they just got to get their applications filled out and brought back in.
It's just that they expire fairly soon. We want to make sure that if people don't want to be reappointed, that we have enough time to fill slots.
Correct.
Right. Okay, public forum. To participate, use the raise hand icon at the bottom right side of your screen, or if you're using a phone, press *9. The moderator will tell you when it's your turn to speak. Comments during public forum will only be heard and not acted upon by the town council. Section 42-46-6 of the Open Meetings Act and the Department of the Attorney General advisory opinions relevant to this item on any public body meeting agenda specifically prohibits the town council from discussing, considering, or acting on any topic, statement, or question presented. The town council may, if warranted, refer such matters to an appropriate committee, to another body or official, or post the matter for consideration at a properly noticed future meeting.
Public comment. I just want to bring up one, Sarah, can keep me honest here. As of today, the candidates have closed for Ward 5, and there will be no primary. And right now, the two candidates that submitted their paperwork would be Mark Bourget and Deborah Taco. So I just want to make that clear that there will be no primary. And there's your 2 candidates for Ward 5.
That is correct.
And we have 1 person in attendance tonight, and that would be Mr. John Parenti. Any questions from the audience?
What happened to your beard? Is that a question? Not on the agenda, so I won't ask it, but we're wondering.
I slipped with the razor and I had to take it off, and trust me, I'm going to let it grow back. I never thought I'd say I miss my beard, but I definitely miss a beard. All righty. Having no other comments.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
You know what? We're going, so the 18th, we're going to meet after financial town meeting.
So actually, I apologize. Don, you're
Yes.
opening bids this week.
On the 17th.
So that's not even gonna be enough time to put it on the agenda. I thought it was this week, Don.
No, it's the 17th, next Monday, and it's for the playground surface treatment. And it looks
So
like we
there'll
got
be
4 or 5 companies interested.
So there is 1 or 2 little small items that are car show and a couple of odds and ends that it's gonna be a very short meeting immediately following. And then Don, if we needed to have another meeting that week, just let us know.
I think by Thursday, we'll have a pretty good answer, which would be the 20th of the 21st.
And that's the other question, and I know the meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, sorry.
So we'll go from there. Don, I'll reach out to you tomorrow because we do have the summer camp opening up on June 28th, and that's going to be a big part of that summer camp is that playground.
As best we can.
And,
All right.
and the basketball starts in the middle of June.
Correct.
Can I
courts.
make a couple comments on the basketball? It's over. It's
Send
over
us an email.
20,000.
Send us an email. We're breaking all
Yeah,
the rules.
and we already adjourned.
Sarah's cringing. I can see it.
I'll send you an email tomorrow outlining the issues with the basketball and tennis courts,
All
crack
right,
ceiling, etc.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Thank you, guys.
Mark, this doesn't look like vacation for you.
That's it. I'm going to lose my phone for 24 hours. I'm not sure which 24 hours yet, but I will lose it for 24 hours.
See you later.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Good night,
Bye.
guys.
Good night.
Bye.